Alrighty, so now we're going to jump into the other topics here for WordCast 76. We've got a few interesting points here. The first one is I'm still mad at Western Digital. So we talked about I think it was in the last podcast, or it might have been 2 podcasts ago, how Western Digital was not telling people and was using shingled magnetic recording in their NAS drives, their RED drives, which are for network attached storage systems, so for servers and stuff. And they were not letting people know that they were using shingled magnetic recording, which for those that don't know, shingled magnetic recording, SMR, in a hard drive allows you to store more data, but it also makes it so that if you have to modify that data later, it takes way longer to modify it. I won't get into the details of why that is and how that works, but that is the general concept, is to try and hold more data in the same hard drive size. And so it's a great technology for the right use case, but the issue is if you're not purpose built for it, it causes a lot of problems. So it can be okay for some desktop uses if you're using it as a storage drive, not an OS drive. Horrible as an OS drive, basically unusable. And you can use it in certain NAS and server and data center usages, in certain instances, and it's better for those uses of like long-term archival storage for quick retrieval, right? Because like you can store stuff on tape drives and those last a super long time and are really cheap, but they're really long recovery time, versus something like this where you can have essentially instant access to it while still being able to store really long-term data. And so SMR is a great technology, but if you put it in something that is not purpose-built for it, it can be so catastrophic it can lead to not just slowdowns but data loss. And this is something that can happen in like a NAS situation, where if you have a drive die and you replace it with an SMR drive, a shingled magnetic recording drive, your resilver or rebuild time of your storage array can be as long as a couple weeks, potentially, depending on how large your data is. And that's really, really, really bad, versus potentially taking a few hours. And the reason that's bad is not just because obviously it takes a long time, something else could happen, but also a lot of times when you're building NASs and stuff, you buy all the drives at the same time. They're oftentimes manufactured like one after another. And so there is actually a statistically higher likelihood that drives that were manufactured in the exact same run fail in a similar amount of time. If there was a mistake that was happening on the production line at that time that wasn't caught until later, they'll all have that. And so it's not uncommon, actually, for if you do buy all the drives together, that they die within a couple of weeks of each other. And that is why some of the recommendations for people building NASs is to mix drives, buy different brands. So anyway, when you have that 12-day or 2-week rebuild time, potentially, you could have other drives die at the same time and you lose your data. Or you can just have the rebuilds completely error out. So it's really, really bad. And WD was not branding things correctly, so you didn't know they were SMR, and it was in their drive specifically built for NAS, which is where it is the most catastrophic if you don't purposely build for it. So then Western Digital decided that their fix for this was going to be not to just, oh yeah, I guess we shouldn't do that, we won't use shingled magnetic recording in our NAS drives anymore. It was to just add a new brand name for the ones that aren't shingled magnetic recording. So you now have, oh, it's so bad. So you now have WD Red, which can be SMR, and those are still considered NAS hard drives. The label still says NAS hard drive, but there's the WD Red Plus, and those are standardized magnetic recording. Now I can't remember what the C stands for, but CMR. And then you have WD Pro, which are the higher performance CMR drives. And I'm just like so disappointed. Like, this is literally not doing what people are asking you to do. And it just seems lazy almost to rebrand instead of fixing what you're doing with the branding in the first place. Whereas like Seagate got yelled at for doing a similar thing, but Seagate did not put SMR in NAS specific drives. Their Iron Wolf drives and their Exos drives, which are their enterprise NAS drives, and enterprise in general actually, were not with SMR. They had CMR.
CMR stands for conventional magnetic recording.
Thank you. I couldn't remember. I knew it was something stupid. it's just frustrating to see Western Digital taking this method because it's still going to confuse consumers that know the WD Red name. And it also would not surprise me for them to start putting things like the WD Reds that use SMR in some of the like shuckable easy store drives and stuff like that, right? So it's also potentially going to be a way to try and stop people from buying the shuckable easy stores for their NASs, which kind of sucks for the NAS community. So disappointing there. I'm pretty mad about that.
Yeah, when I first saw this was their response, even I was just like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. You can't be like, oh, we fucked up our product line, so we're just going to add another product line, and that one's going to be what you want. But the one we fucked up still fucked up. It's so bad.
And by adding this by adding this additional naming scheme and everything, I feel like it's going to make it even easier for them to up the price later on.
I think so too. Yeah.
We'll see like the base model Reds stay the same, and then or like go up a much smaller amount, and then the plus models go up a little bit more, and they can kind of diverge the pricing even further.
Yeah. I think, and that's something they've done before. I mean, they always like to push pricing up, and it's annoying. And they've been sued for this, by the way, as a reminder. And I don't know. I'm just frustrated because like Seagate did take shit for this, but again, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, but I think I read in several places their drives that were labeled for NAS usage were never SMR.
Correct.
And Seagate basically said we would never do that. Okay, I thought I remembered right. And so that's the issue here is you just shouldn't label NAS drives SMR. You should have, ideally you should have an SMR line. But if you're not going to do that, it should at least be your base level drives and not drives that say they're for NAS use to be SMR.
Yeah, so for Seagate, it was a few Barracuda drives, one Exos drive, and 2 archive drives.
That's right. There was the Exos drive. There was the Exos one. But I think, I'm trying to remember, I think the Exos one was labeled. I can't remember. I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that were
like some of the
data. So it was specifically 2 Barracuda drives that did not mention SMR, and then a 5 terabyte just desktop hard drive
that didn't mention it. Right. Okay. That's what I thought. So which is like, they should still mention it in the specs. I would prefer it to be its own line, which their archive drives were and still are. But it's better if you just do it in a use case where it's not going to destroy everything.
Yeah.
So, pretty mad about that, to be honest. But anyway, moving on. I'm sorry, that was a long rant, but that's frustrating.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah.
So the next couple topics are about Microsoft shutting some stuff down. First up, Microsoft has announced that they are permanently closing all of their retail stores. Now, the New York, London, Sydney, and Redmond locations will be converted from Microsoft stores to some kind of new Microsoft Experience Center. Whatever that means. They don't sell products.
I thought that was the point of the store, but okay.
In reality, that was. So from what I was reading from some people that posted online that worked for Microsoft stores, essentially the whole point was to just remain competitive with Apple in image. And it was actually seen as more of an advertising tool.
Oh, rather than selling products.
Now, apparently Microsoft had actually planned this shutdown for a while, but the plan was for it to be next year. And COVID accelerated that decision.
Yeah.
However, I don't know how this is going to work, but Microsoft is claiming that there will be no layoffs.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Unless they're saying no layoffs because they already laid everyone off.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think,
but
and obviously this is no layoffs for now. Yeah.
Is it like, what they're going to be no doing, layoffs, but you can move into call center work? Is it going to be...
Not exactly. They're going to have people, like, they're trying to amp up their remote ability to work with customers. And so from what I heard is they're planning to do more, like, video chat capabilities and stuff like that for somebody that's potentially interested in a product. I don't think so much for, like, direct customer support, but essentially, like what it sounds like to me is they're kind of trying to be like, oh, why don't we just take the experience you could get there obviously removing the physically being able to touch a product, but everything else, and try and push that online. So you can go to purchase a product, you can talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about through video, that's willing to talk and help things out, and or help with things. And I think that potentially could be a really good, at least, trial run. There's no guarantee it'll work and that those people won't get laid off later, but it's an interesting shot. And this as well as the next topic that we're about to talk about is interesting to me because Microsoft, I have touted the last couple of podcasts that I'm glad they don't cancel things that often. But
so let's just move into it. Microsoft is shutting down Mixer.
yes. Now, I will say one of the points was that Microsoft doesn't close things down as quickly. And Mixer did push a long time and was basically doing nothing for a long time. I can't remember when they came out, but
2016.
Yeah, 2016. So, I mean, 4 years is a pretty good push for something that has literally just been a money sinkhole for them. They haven't made money off of it.
No, but a
So,
big part of, from my understanding, the point of Mixer was actually to integrate with xCloud. A lot
I
of the
see.
benefits that were coming from Mixer would have been the same stuff that Google wants to do with Stadia that they had promised. In that, the idea with Stadia is like you could be playing a game and with one button easily stream, and then you can have it so that like you could be watching somebody streaming and then with one button start launching the game, and it's all
Yeah.
very directly integrated. And it was going to be more so, from my understanding, at least the recent vision was that it was going to be more so a way to boost xCloud. And so the fact that it didn't even last until xCloud is kind of disappointing. Like,
Yeah,
I would have
it
gotten it if they would
is.
have tried that and those features didn't get utilized.
Yeah. Maybe they just realize how difficult that's going to be because Google's promised that and failed
Yeah, but
completely.
Google also
And maybe they're
promised a
just
lot of things from Stadia and just didn't do it.
This is true, and I guess at the other point too is Microsoft has been one to try to conquer the complicated
Yeah.
tasks, especially for cloud stuff. I mean, their Azure is pretty damn
Mhm.
capable. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I actually liked Mixer as a platform in a lot of ways better than Twitch in terms of UI and
And on
stuff.
top of that, I would much rather use a Microsoft streaming service than an Amazon one.
Agreed. Yeah, like I think avoiding Amazon
Right
and
now,
avoiding
the
some of the
only streaming service options are Amazon, Facebook, and Google.
Yeah, and it's just like, come on. Like, out of the giants, I trust Microsoft and Apple the
Yeah.
most. With both my data, with both not, with not trying to be as monopolistic, and just generally treating employees and consumers better and trying to do good things instead of Amazon of how horribly can we treat everybody but still have them work for us.
Yeah. Like
You know,
Apple is
like,
Apple, they take advantage of their market power within their circle, whereas Amazon tries
yeah.
to use their market power to take over every circle.
Yeah,
Amazon
right,
wants to
right,
be
exactly.
everything. Apple just
Yeah, they're like,
Apple wants control over what they do, whereas Amazon wants
uh-huh.
control.
Yeah, no, Amazon's very like, oh, you see that market? We could totally go in there, undersell them, make no money for 5 years, and kill them off as a business, and then boom, we have
Yeah.
it. It's a like it's a
It's
disgusting
literally
business
for
model.
like they at this point have the money and power that they could take over most any industry they want.
Yeah, they can just grab an industry, and it's literally the tactic is literally just, oh, we'll just lose money on it for a while until they
Yeah.
die. And then we're good. And that, I mean, that's what they did with shopping. That's what they've done with a lot of book services. That's not so much what they're doing with AWS, but they are doing with other services. And AWS kicked
AWS is
off
kind
so
of
hard
funding
because
everything else.
right, exactly. And AWS kicked off so hard because it was a genuinely and still is genuinely an amazing product. AWS is actually fantastic. But it's also funding this disgusting
Yeah,
destruction
I
of
would
every other
love
business.
to see AWS be split off from Amazon.
Agreed.
Man, that
Yeah.
would shake up Amazon.
That would
Like,
shake them up so much. I mean, that was why they were able to be successful in the product
yeah,
industry.
like if Amazon actually had to compete as a store based on the merits as a store and the pricing that they could actually afford,
Yeah.
then like they'd have to really do some work. Now,
They
by
would.
the time anything
And
like that would ever happen, they'll also have already built out their own entire distribution chain, at which point they will still have a massive
yeah.
advantage.
Yep.
And I don't think that that'll ever happen anyway. The most realistic antitrust situation that I see actually occurring, even though it's not necessarily the one that I think should be the only thing that we do, is this was most heavily pushed by Elizabeth Warren, but the idea of if you are a retailer or like a digital retailer, you also can't sell goods on that platform, because
Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm.
matter what, if you are selling goods on a platform, you can undercut in price because you won't, like, let's say, most companies make 10% off their product. Well, if they make 10% off their product after your 30% cut, then you can sell your product for 30% less and still make that same profit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's it's I don't know, they're scary. This behemoth that misbehaves, and they treat their employees so bad, and it's like it's just because they know people need
Yeah.
jobs.
Um
It's like it's horrible. Like you can go get a job for Amazon, and they'll pay you a livable wage, not a great one, but they'll pay you a
you just
livable
have to
wage.
pee in
They'll just
cups. Um
right, exactly,
so
yeah.
back to the Mixer stuff. So the way that this is all going to work, so it's shutting down July 22nd. There is a deal in place for existing Mixer partners to move over to Facebook Gaming if they want to. Apparently, they have to sign an
Okay,
NDA to get partnered with Facebook. I don't know why that is. Um,
fuck
and
Facebook.
then apparently, Facebook is offering a one-time $2,500 signing bonus for any Mixer partner. Now, most Mixer partners aren't making a ton, so that's actually a decent amount of money for them if they want to go that route. But a lot of them don't want to. Um,
Yeah.
and then what makes this really interesting is that Microsoft just spent a shit ton of money signing people. They signed
Yeah.
Ninja, they signed Shroud, and
You would think they would give it a little more time.
yeah. Now, a lot of people did not go over to continue watching them. Like Shroud and Ninja's communities tanked. However, from
Yeah.
everything I've heard, Ninja loved it. He loved having a smaller community. He doesn't want a large community. The only reason he wants a
Oh, I
large
see.
community is the money. If he could have the tens of millions of dollars Microsoft was offering him and a smaller community that's easier to interact with, that's
Yeah.
most streamers realistically I think would prefer that.
Yeah, no, having, like 500 or 1,000 viewers instead, or even 5,000
Yeah.
viewers instead of
Yeah,
100,000
because like when you
is
have
like, that's so
100,000,
much
you
easier to
can't
manage.
interact with chat. It's hard.
You literally
It's
can't,
hard
yeah,
at
yeah.
that scale to even interact with just people donating money to you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. Whereas, like, when it's only a few hundred, you can very easily interact with chat directly, and if it's, only a few thousand, you can probably read most of chat,
Yeah,
maybe
and
not
at the very
directly.
least, easily interact with those donating.
Exactly, yeah. And until you get up to the probably 20,000 range, you can interact with those donating
Yeah, I
pretty
mean it'll
well.
always
But
depend on the community. Some communities are going to be much
of
more
course,
heavily
yeah,
interactive, at which point more people makes it even worse.
yes, makes it even harder. Yeah.
But it's just wild. And apparently, Facebook offered large sums of money. I've seen anywhere from supposed, I don't know, I don't think this is true, but $1 million per viewer. To
Wow.
the more realistic number I've heard is that they've apparently offered Ninja double what he was getting offered from Microsoft, and Ninja said
Huh.
no.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a horrible platform.
And on top of that,
I mean,
maybe Ninja decides to, you know, he of all people, like Ninja and Shroud could just like come together and be like, "Yo, let's make our own."
they could, yeah,
And now
absolutely.
they
I mean, they
have
have the they
tens of
have the cash
millions of
flow.
dollars to fund whatever they want. Because
Yeah,
apparently,
yeah, that's true.
since they said no to the Facebook buyout with the way their contract was set up, Microsoft had to buy them out of their contract. And so Ninja
Okay.
ended up with an estimated 30 million. Shroud ended up with an estimated
Wow.
10 million
Wow.
for a
And
for a
and
several month exclusivity deal, essentially.
yeah, I would love to see them come together and try and make something
Yeah, I don't
because,
know if that's gonna
like,
happen. That's
honestly,
just
Twitch.
complete like hope from
Oh
me,
yeah,
but
no, but I would love to see that because there's not any other real competitors to Twitch at that point then, and Twitch, it runs the same model a lot of ways as Amazon because it is Amazon of just make the most profit. It doesn't the user doesn't
they should
matter.
partner with Floatplane.
That would be interesting. I don't know how hard it would be to set up live streaming on Floatplane, but if it was just two people, they could probably get it working.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
know that's not
yeah,
gonna
and
happen, but
then
that'd be dope.
hey Ninja, you watch our podcast, right?
Yeah. Hey, you watch our podcast, so does Luke. You guys should just connect.
Yeah,
Oh, we
just
get a
do it.
cut.
What if one of them dies? Oh
That's
man.
not. Nah.
Um, what I will say too is it's weird. I actually opened up Mixer just to see what was going on there. There's still a lot of people streaming on there right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that stream on Mixer did it because they liked Mixer.
Yeah. Well, no, I really like the layout and stuff. I do. Like honestly, I don't think it seems to respond faster. I feel like it's easier on the eyes and cleaner. I feel like it's a little easier to understand. Chat seems to update quicker on it, although I haven't used it enough to say that's for sure. And the quality seems consistently better.
Yeah.
So I'm sad. I'm a little sad about it actually. Any streamer, I mean, I don't watch streamers that much, but streamers that I do watch, like if they streamed on Mixer, I'd want to watch them.
Yeah. Now, to go into this more, so in addition to the Facebook gaming deal for partners, apparently Microsoft is also looking at partnering with Facebook on xCloud and Game Pass and some other stuff. We don't really know what that means because yes, they could do the integration in the same way we had talked about. Maybe they were thinking about doing with xCloud.
Yeah.
However, after this got announced, a lot of people within the Xbox community got very concerned because right now Mixer is a part of the dashboard. And
Yeah. And we don't want Facebook
yeah,
there.
I mean, like I was planning on picking up the Series X, even though it's not going to be my main gaming platform.
Yeah.
But no fucking way I'm doing that if Facebook is directly integrated into the OS at such a deep level. And a lot of
Yeah.
people that are like that were planning on going Xbox exclusive were saying that. And
Yeah.
Microsoft came out and said that that's apparently not happening, but like we don't know what they're going to do. Because as of now,
Yeah.
the Xbox will just apparently not have live streaming, which puts them at a huge disadvantage over PlayStation.
Yeah, they might have to integrate Twitch.
Which is what PlayStation does, but I mean, like, it'd be
Yeah.
very weird for them to sign all these deals with Facebook and then use Twitch.
Not integrate Facebook. Yeah. I don't know, and the thing about Facebook is like if they could just, get their security in order, get their privacy in order and actually innovate their app once in a while. I actually think it would be a great I would like to use it. Like when I use Facebook,
They would have to do a lot
and I
more
don't
for
use
me
Facebook.
in order for me to set up an account again. Because it's not just security and privacy; it's also some of the company
Employee treatment.
decisions,
Yeah,
employee
yeah.
treatment,
So I
Zuckerberg in
agree. I
general.
agree. My point, yeah. My point was just that like I actually back when I used it, I actually liked using it. And I didn't use it like a crazy amount. I did not fall into the Facebook hole of ruining my life by spending all my time on there. But I liked it as a platform, but I just can't work with a company like that. And it'd be cool if they could get their stuff together to the point where I feel like I could. Instead my social media is MeWe and Twitter.
Yeah.
And MeWe is not growing at the rate it needs to be competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, their business model luckily seems sustainable, actually, by the way. I mean, I know that's not related to Mixer,
Yeah.
but MeWe's, it seems sustainable.
And the timing on this was very interesting. Obviously, this deal had to have been worked on for quite a while, so it's not like this was just like a split decision. However, it's possible the announcement was done to distract from some other news. Because the day before this got announced, in fact, like the afternoon before this got announced, there was a report that came out. So a former employee of Mixer reported that this is a black employee, and he was the only black person on the team that he was working with, at least. And his manager apparently made some pretty bad comments about how the manager was the slave owner of the team.
Oh
And this
man,
was
I
not
hadn't
made
heard about
specifically
that.
to him, but it was made to the team. However, in
Oh.
addition to that, the employee also said that former employee also said that the manager had passed up some suggestions that he had, but then also later on made those suggestions or approved those suggestions when they were made by white employees.
Mm,
And apparently told him that he was pretty much only hired because he was black. Um, and so this employee, now that's already all of that's pretty bad, but this
yeah.
employee did, or former employee, did what he was supposed to do. He reported it to the next level management, and that next level manager apparently didn't tell HR about the slave comment. Like just
Oh
didn't tell
man.
them at all. Like they were surprised when he then decided to talk to them because nothing had happened. Um, and then eventually he decided that he was going to leave anyway. But despite planning on leaving and going through that process, he spoke to legal, who looked at it, and apparently legal's response was that the manager that said those comments was uh, not in any trouble because she couldn't be racist because she hired a black person.
That's really
Yeah.
bad.
So it's not like
So,
one manager saying something horrible is really bad, but it's not like this was just a one-off thing. There is essentially systemic issues within that that section of Mixer that just seemingly
yeah.
dismissed this as not that big of a deal. Um,
Yeah.
and so like that came out, and then the next day this got announced, and so some people were theorizing that like obviously this has been in the works for a while, but that either they were like, oh, we've got to make this announcement now to bury that news because I mean you didn't hear about it, and it's something you probably would have if it
Mhm.
was not for the fact that the next day everyone started talking about Mixer because of this. Um,
Yeah.
or that Microsoft wanted to get the announcement out right away because whatever deal they had with Facebook financially is based on Mixer's current value, and that value was going to tank.
Oh. Yeah.
So we don't know for sure what the details are as to what.
Right, like they could be
Yeah,
unrelated, but
the
it's
timing is
that's the I
very
mean,
odd.
the timing is odd, and then regardless of all the other stuff, this is still a big problem,
Yes.
and that I hope that doesn't signify any kind of um like the social aspects of Microsoft
Yeah,
internally.
from my
And I don't
understanding,
think it
Mixer was
does,
mostly
but
run kind of as its own division.
right, that was my understanding too. And I don't think that Microsoft has a diversity problem, but I don't know that. That's not something I've researched. Um
Well, and separate from
but
diversity
like
problem, there. I mean,
well,
there's a
and the
big
lack
difference
of being able to
between
report,
there's a big
yeah.
difference between
Yeah.
diversity problem and like full blown
Literally just
racist
letting
comments being allowed.
right, yeah. It's the being allowed part that is like, like those people should be fired immediately, and if depending on the extent they go to, reported to
Mhm.
authorities. I mean that's unacceptable.
Yeah, it was
Um
just a wild situation, and then for this to get announced the next day, I'm like, what? Um,
yeah, that's a little
yeah. And
coincidental.
then the last couple things. So to speaking of Facebook, which we have talked about a little bit, for those that don't know, there's an advertiser boycott that's been pushed because of Facebook's lack of action on a lot of things, and it started out pretty small, and then um, REI got on board, and then North Face got on board, which was a pretty big deal. Patagonia got on
Yeah.
board. Levi Strauss got on board. And as of more recently, Verizon, North Face, Unilever, Coca Cola, Hershey are all just done with Facebook and Instagram. Some of these are going farther than that, and in fact, also just doing social media advertising boycotts, like Coca Cola.
Yeah.
Um, but
I have some thoughts about this. I mean, sorry, continue. Sorry, but I
yeah,
have some raging
it's
thoughts
it's
about it.
wild to see so many companies actually joining in this boycott against Facebook and Instagram. And
It is.
before the some of the more recent announcements, I think before Hershey's and before Unilever, um, Facebook's market value had dropped like $56 billion or something like that,
It was like 7%.
enough to
Yeah.
directly affect Mark Zuckerberg's net worth by $7 billion.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. So there's a couple things I'll say here. Um, I'm glad it's happening because Facebook needs to restructure things really badly. But I also do not like the hypocrisy of Hershey's and Verizon, who treat people and customers and employees horribly,
Mhm.
coming in here and saying Facebook doesn't do a good job with stuff. It's almost like, look, if we tell Facebook they're bad, we can be bad and nobody will notice. And then there is, of course, the like reverse advertising, whereas some of these companies, I'm sure, have caught on of, oh, we can literally not pay Facebook
And
money
get
and
advertising.
use, yeah, exactly. And then, it's actually even funnier than that in my opinion, because it's like we cannot pay Facebook money and then use their platform to tell people we're not paying them
Mhm.
money as advertisement for how great we
Yeah.
are. So it's literally like, let's bury another company because it'll make us more money.
Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah,
like,
there are definitely some
it's
companies who I think
savage.
are doing this strictly for the issue. I mean, like Ben& Jerry's is obviously a very
Yes.
active company. Patagonia is a very active company.
North Face and REI are fairly active
REI
as
is very
well.
active.
Yeah.
North Face is pretty active. Um,
Yeah.
Levi Strauss is very active. In fact, speaking of which, I think it's Levi Strauss and Patagonia have, separate from the bans or the boycotts,
Hmm.
have been pushing for a movement for companies to give employees time off to vote in areas where they can't vote by mail come this November. And they have
I
gotten,
see.
last I had checked, over 450 companies have signed on, including Walmart.
Yeah, that's a enormous deal
Yeah.
right there. I also wanted to add that I think Verizon was the one that said that they're only pausing the advertising for 30 days.
So the push was for the pause to be through July.
Okay.
It is a
Okay.
1 month advertising boycott. Now, some of the companies, I think REI and Patagonia, North Face, have said at least 1 month at a minimum, but
Okay.
whether or not they reinstate it is dependent on action by
Action.
Facebook. But even if
Okay.
Facebook acts right now, because of how Facebook has acted, they are essentially punishing them with 1 month of lost advertising revenue.
And I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. I think, Facebook will survive. No users need to be worried.
Yeah.
But Facebook needs work, and it needs a lot of it.
Hmm.
Like a lot of it, a lot of it.
Yeah. And for reference, for
So,
those that
yeah.
don't know much about Unilever, because it's not like the name that you interact with as far as the brand, they own a lot. Uh,
Yes, they're big.
One example, they own Dove, they
Yeah,
own
that's a big one.
Lipton, they own Skippy, they own Hellman's, like they own a lot of stuff.
A lot of
So
shit.
this
Yeah,
is a pretty fucking big deal, one to hit, because
it
it's
is.
not one company, it's a ton of companies.
And one company, they start to set off more
Yeah.
companies. It's a chain
They
reaction.
own
It wouldn't surprise me to have Facebook see like 20 or 30% of their advertisers
Yeah,
gone.
they
You
own
know,
Axe, they own, Magnum.
yeah,
So, it's, that one was pretty surprising.
yeah,
So,
definitely. And I'm for it.
and it's one of
Um,
those things
you know,
where, I mean, like, yes, we're talking about it, but, like, since it's the Unilever name and it's not like Dove coming out and saying that they're doing it, it does
yeah,
hurt Facebook more than it helps Unilever.
this is true. Yeah, yeah. Whereas for Verizon, like it could be just publicity,
Yeah.
which wouldn't surprise me. And I don't know. A thing here is like I'm really happy to see this because when the government doesn't take action to fix companies the size of Facebook that are treating people horribly and doing horrible things with our data and security and privacy, at that point, the only next real step, the two options are either companies taking action against them or the users. And we know the users aren't going to do anything.
Yeah.
So the real option is companies saying, all right, we're going to put you in your place because nobody else is. And, and as it gets worse, these companies in some ways could be threatened by Facebook being big enough, and also threatened by if Facebook has another big horrible problem, people might not trust the companies that are
Yeah, I
advertising
mean,
there.
Facebook is essentially, at this point, as powerful as many governments around the world, which is
Oh
terrifying.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but, one thing I was gonna say, though, it's a really weird situation where, like, it's essentially just it is actually consumers acting. It's just not consumers acting directly necessarily, because While
Yeah.
consumers can't get Facebook to cave to them, there are companies that will listen to consumers. And if you get enough of those
Mm-hmm.
to do it, it then becomes the popular thing for companies to join in that movement. That's what we saw with this, where it was some companies doing this based on some initial pressure. And then more companies
Yeah.
joined on board, and more companies that we would expect to be pretty active joined on board. And eventually it became, why aren't you doing this? And it puts pressure on other
Yeah.
companies that kind of do have to cave. And so
Yeah.
it's even a consumer tactic now of, if you can't get one company to do what you need, get other companies to make them do it.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Um, especially the chain reaction, of being able to get a couple of small
Mhm.
companies, some small in quotes, in comparison to like Verizon, to get started on it. The publicity of that gets other companies on
Yeah.
board. So
And
interesting.
then the last topic for the day is some changes to the Tesla Model S. So they announced that they were both dropping the price and increasing the range of their long range plus model, which is their lower priced model. So they dropped it down $5,000 to
Of
74,000.
the Model S
Yes.
specifically, right? Yeah.
$5,000 to the 74,999, while increasing the range from 737 miles to 402 miles.
373
Oh,
miles.
yes, sorry.
Yeah, which is impressive and great. I mean, obviously not a car I'm gonna be able to buy,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
still
nice to
it's still
see
cool to
that
see a price
it's
cut.
nice to see the battery tech getting better enough that it can improve in range, while the rest of the stuff is able to whether it's the battery tech or it's the rest of it, they're able to drop the price either way. Like, it's not often
Yeah,
you see a
yeah.
product get better for less money at the same time.
Well, and to top it off, it's not that often that you see a what's considered a fairly boutique product get a big price
Yeah.
cut, right? Like price cutting the Model 3 is even by like 2 grand, say, is a much bigger deal to people buying Model 3s than cutting this by 5,000 is for people that are buying Model
Yeah.
S's. Right, so it's like they didn't actually have to do it. They could have just increased the range, and that would have made people
Mhm.
happy, or nothing, right? And just kept selling it and making the same amount of money they were. And those people that are wanting it, like I would be out there to say that they probably would lose, like say this didn't happen and they just left it the same. The amount of people buying Model S's would have been identical,
Yeah,
basically.
like, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, I was gonna get the Model 3, but now that this is only 75,000 instead of 80,000 and gets 40 more miles, I'm gonna buy this." 30 more
Exactly.
miles.
And then vice versa. Nobody's going to say, well, I wasn't going to buy a Model S, but now that it has an extra 30 miles of range, I'm going to
Yeah.
buy it. But it's this, and it goes along with the business model that we've seen from Tesla, where it's this continued improvement on top of the car. That's not oh, here's our new model year, our 2020
Yeah,
Model S.
you're
It's just,
you're
here's a better one.
always buying the best model that they have ready and, like, could produce at the time. And that
Yeah, versus
includes
other
the price, which
companies.
is pretty crazy. It's like, "Oh, we
Yeah.
can make it cheaper, so we did."
Yes. Where versus the other car companies are very much so, oh, we have a cool new feature, but that's going to be in next year's
Yeah.
model.
Or, "Oh, we added a
So
lot of good features last year. We'll wait a couple years before we make a big change."
yeah, there's that too, right? Where we'll hold on to the features that we could change until our 2022
Yeah.
model. Our 2021 model is going to be the same car with different trim. you
Yeah.
know. So I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's great. Well, that concludes WordCast number 76. Our recording time is 3 hours and 45 minutes, but the podcast is probably only going to be 3
Yeah,
hours.
we had, like, a half-hour break.
Yeah. We had like two of them.
Yeah.
But long podcast here. We appreciate everybody that listens to the end, and we're gonna be starting to do parts instead of clips to make it a little clearer. So if you want specific news that is in a podcast format, you can get like a 40-minute podcast
Or
basically
in
that's on a
today's
specific
episode, it's,
topic
like, an hour and 20 minutes.
for just iOS and
Yeah. Like,
iPad.
realistically, we could just make like if we had a good way to brand it, we could just make dedicated podcasts, like 3 of them a week from one episode we record.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a long podcast. We could
Yeah.
totally do that. But I like having the conversation just all in one
Yeah.
thing. I think it's nice. And, for people that have long commutes, the podcast might get them through their entire commute day, Cool. So, yeah, I think it's great. Well, give us feedback, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next one. And hopefully I will also have some video content out the same week this is being put up. That's the goal.
Yep. All right. Bye, everyone.